to get Closify to its biggest month, it took like 16 or 18 months, 15,000 cold emails a month, sales team on LinkedIn, cold calling team, SEO, content marketing, referrals. To surpass our biggest Closify month, it took me 45 days with my Instagram account.
That's nuts.
45 days.
45 days.
And what are you doing on that account?
Dev agency.
But I'm saying like in 45 days on Instagram to generate that traffic, it's just posting reels?
Yeah. 2 reels a day, some story posts. I'll go live every once in a while. So it took 45 days just from my Instagram.
Chris, you want to guess on what episode it is?
Episode 25.
Pretty much.
All right.
I
Close?
think that's actually
Cool.
pretty close.
All right, sweet. Welcome back to Stick Talk. We are here as usual from Grand Cathedral Cigar. We got a killer guest on today. And one thing that I wanted to talk about right before we jump into it is that 74% of you guys that watch frequently actually don't subscribe. So if you could do us a favor, Christian is over here. He's been crying for the last 3 episodes at this point. Take 5 seconds, hit that subscribe button, comment once, comment twice, just comment throughout the whole thing.
/
He's going to be a happy boy. And right now, yeah, he's hungover. He's
He's
down right now in a few ways. Very down. Let's get
up.
Christian up. Please subscribe.
Like and
Appreciate
subscribe.
y'all. Now, you want to intro
Yeah, bro.
Mr. Sass?
Mr. Sass. Is
Mr.
that what we're
Sass.
calling you now? No, this is really cool, guys. So, what was it? Like a year and a half, 2 years ago, we met for the first time in Miami. I think it was at some like crypto event.
Yeah, it was. And it's actually like, I mean, super short side tangent. So funny. Your cousin Mickey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I follow him. I didn't know that was him. He DMs me yesterday and he
No
goes
way.
like, "Yo, do you remember me?" Like we met and I was like, "Yes." And it's like short side tangent, but that was crazy to me that I just found that out yesterday.
That
Yeah,
was one of the
dude.
best events ever.
That
Remember we
was-
paid like
yeah.
That was-
$84 and it was
Yeah, we went on like a mega yacht the night before,
Yeah.
and then like
Bar.
an EDM concert party,
open
Yeah.
bar again.
open bar both nights.
That
and
was
it was
the bull
like
market,
84
bro.
bucks.
Oh, it was NFT Basel. if
Yeah,
I'm saying
Christian,
that
remember
correctly.
that?
That was when NFTs were up, so they had unlimited money.
Yeah.
I wasn't there. I was in fucking Binghamton.
Left
And
this
it was
kid
like
back in
newly
New York.
minted crypto.com was the
Oh,
Heat
man.
Arena.
Yeah.
Heat Arena. But dude, Alex, welcome to the
crash,
show, bro.
Yeah,
appreciate
appreciate
you
it.
making the trip all the
Of
way
course.
from Miami.
course.
I know there's always been some beef between the Miami and the Tampa boys, so you know, not
Nah,
to
no,
get into
squash
that.
that beef.
That's the reason we
Yeah.
invited him over.
Outside of Miami and Tampa, I'm super interested to know like what makes Ohio, where you're from, like a pipeline for just money Twitter savages. Like, what is it?
It's honestly interesting. I mean, it's like Ohio's some like mystical like state to so many people. They're like,
Yeah.
what is in Ohio, right? It's like, I don't know, there's some like weird statistic. Like we have the most astronauts of any state. Like there's some like weird stuff. I don't know. I don't feel like it's just Ohio though. I feel like it's the Midwest. Like it breeds a lot of good people, and you know, I guess a lot of them turn out to be savages at business.
Yeah.
I don't really know what to tell you, but I mean, yeah, there's a lot of us. You know, we got like just in Miami, there's Luke, there's Ben,
Yep.
there was Fitz. So yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, Logan is from Ohio too.
Yeah.
And I think Joey is from Ohio.
Yep. Joey's from Ohio. Yeah,
That's crazy.
It's interesting. Yeah.
You guys got a bunch of killers from
Yeah.
Ohio. It's so random, but
Dude, congrats on 100K on Instagram.
Yeah, I appreciate
Quick
it.
clap,
It's crazy.
quick clap. How many days?
95
95 days
That's
to
insane.
100K
So we have
followers.
the brains behind it.
Mastermind
We have
behind
the
it.
person in front of the camera. What do you guys think contributed to that success?
So
So quick.
I think there's like a few parts. It's like there's so many people that are just putting out like lifestyle reels, right? Of like them on a boat, their cars. Like I see them all the time. And I think when people see those videos, it's like the dopamine hit of like, oh, that's cool. But then they're like, oh, that's a cool video, like it, and then they scroll. The reason that I think I did really well is you have to change a belief. And this is kind of what I figured out. It's like I'm not Tate, right? Like I'm not bringing people to a new platform like he's bringing people to like Rumble. It's like any audience that I'll ever have is already on Instagram. I'm not bringing new people to Instagram. So that means the audience that I want is someone else's audience right now, right? So like in a way you kind of have to like steal an audience, if you will.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you steal an audience? And it's like you have to change a belief. And if you don't change a belief, there's no reason for them to switch over to you. So in this whole like make money online niche, it's like, one, it's like anyone that's ever wanted to make money online, because of the Imans and because of like the Sebs, like they already know what drop shipping in an agency is. Like if someone's interested in making money online, you say, hey, tell me what drop shipping is, they know, right? Whereas if I say, hey, what's a no-code SaaS? Like maybe 10% of people that are interested in making money online knows what no-code SaaS is.
You're educating them. You're not
So
furthering a belief.
it's like one,
you're
I'm like
introducing it.
creating a new demand
Yeah.
that's like people weren't even aware of. And then on top of that, the people that already know what an agency is, the people that know about e-com, copywriting, whatever, I'm changing their belief that like, hey, this might not be the best vehicle for you to build wealth because there's no equity value there being created, right? And so there's a desire. It's like these people, they want to be like their role models, right? So like they look up to Iman, right? Like they look up to Jordan Welch, like all these people. And so when, my most viral video, I say Iman Ghadzi shut down his agency to go on in SaaS. Jordan's telling you to do e-com, he's doing SaaS. And so it changed their belief because they weren't conscious of it. And so they're like, like the guys that I look up to, they really are all starting to do software.
Yeah.
And so they're like, this guy's onto something. Let me see what else he has to say. So instead of like if it was a lifestyle video and them just being like, oh, cool video, like, scroll, they're like, this guy's making an interesting point. Like, let me see what else this guy has to say. Like, I'm going to follow him. So like that's what I think contributed to it.
Yeah.
And the editing's amazing.
Do you think Iman actually has a good SaaS?
If I'm being honest, I've never seen it. I've never seen what agency flow looks like.
I was going to say, bro, I was going through some of your content. Like, one of my questions was like, do you have beef with Iman?
No.
It's like a good
Actually, I want to make that very clear. I'm actually a huge fan.
That's all I wanted to ask. Because it's like,
no, I'm a huge fan of Iman. I'm a student of his. I bought Copy Paste Agency in 2020, and it's what led me to create Closify. Not necessarily like the course content itself, but because the community, and they all were coming to me for sales reps, and based off the feedback that I got from them, that was how I started Closify. And like, I have nothing but good things to say about Iman. I think his course was very well put together. I think the community was good. His team was all very helpful. So yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about Iman. It's just like pointing out that it's like he's starting to pivot, and he's open about it too. He's not like trying to hide it. He's like, I shut down my agency. Like he made a video. He's like, I shut down my agency, and I'm fully focusing on grow your agency with the intention of funneling them all to agency flow. Like he's completely transparent about it, but people still like, they lack the awareness to like actually see what he's doing, even though he's public about it, because there's like a knowledge gap.
Yeah.
And so I just pointed out that gap, and that's kind of like what's allowed me to like gain a following.
Yep.
That's huge because no one else has pointed out that specific gap, right?
Right.
And I think with like what all these guys are doing, they're selling people into courses or their info products, and you're just like, rather than listening to what they say, just watch what they do.
Yeah.
And do the same thing, because that's really where the secrets are.
Right.
Which is so interesting. So tell us about your SaaS journey specifically. I know you got started with Closify, which is actually cool because I watched your YouTube video and you talked about how buying a high ticket info product like Iman's course kind of triggered that journey for you. So talk us through what that looked like for you.
Yeah, so I was a freelance sales recruiter, so business owners were paying me a one-off fee to place sales reps in their business. And I was still in college, playing tennis at St. Louis University while I was doing this. And I was like, dude, this is so inefficient. Because like I didn't have time. I was playing college tennis. And I was like, I can't scale this because I literally have very little time in my day. And so I actually FaceTimed like an old buddy of mine. It was actually Sam Thompson.
Oh, cool.
And, he was like, update me, like tell me about what you're doing. And I was like, kind of explained to him that like I had this time constraint. And I knew like, I was in probably where everyone that watches my videos, I was in like the same shoes as them. Like I had this belief about software that it required, $30K up front.
Yeah.
Like you had to go hire software engineers, like all this stuff. And he's like, you could probably automate or turn this into a self-serve hiring platform. And he just like listed off a few no-code tools. He's like, you could probably go use Stacker, Airtable, yada, yada, yada.
And this was 2 years ago?
Yeah, this was like literally like January of 2021.
Wow.
And I was like, wait, what? Like, what are you talking? Like, Stacker, Airtable, what? And he explained it to me. And he goes, yeah, go play around with it. Try to build something. And so I got it like 80% of the way there. And he helped me finish it. And it was literally like a directory. Like, it looked disgusting, but it was the equivalent of you paying for like an Excel sheet of like closer's name, experience, contact info. So like that was like basically the equivalent of like what the first people paid for. But still it allowed us to like pump enough money into it to then we built the next version on Webflow that looked a little bit nicer. Pumped a little bit more money into it. And then we finally went and paid $6,000 for it to be built on Bubble. And then finally, once it was built on Bubble, it was like a really nice, user interface. It was a nice experience for our clients. And so then we basically relaunched it. So we paid for the Bubble build in April. It finished like...
when you say Bubble build, just for the audience, that's just like a tool to build no-code SaaS?
Yeah, so Bubble's, it's the best no-code builder. So it's not like... It's actually pretty difficult to learn. It'll still take you like a couple months. So that's why I pay a Bubble developer. And so then we relaunched it in July. And then after that, it was like, it scaled.
Took off.
Built it. We scaled all the way throughout 2022. And then also like side tangent, in 2022, I also built and sold a company called Trackify. That's because like we had all these customers at Closify. They're like, we hire these great sales reps from you, but we don't know how to like, we wish there was a better way to track their performance besides like Google Sheets. And so I was literally like, what's your wish list? Gave it to my Bubble developer and just built it. And then I was like, I don't really have enough time to do this too. And so I sold it.
Nice.
But then, I exited the majority of Closify. And we made the handshake deal in February. It closed in March. This year. And then, I mean, it was just like such divine timing because that was, probably the hardest decision I've ever had to make. Like the biggest decision of my life by far. And literally almost exactly at the same time that the acquisition closed is when my Instagram took off.
Wow.
And then again, like started my no-code development agency that we're kind of running as a venture studio. And then funny enough, I put up a story for my friend that wanted to acquire a company. I was like, hey, is anyone selling their company? This guy DMs me. He's like, I'm selling my company Rollade, which is a marketplace for no-code developers. He's like, do you want to buy it? And I was like, yeah, I want to buy it. And so I acquired that.
That couldn't be a more perfect fit.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, of course I want to buy it. So I acquired that. That we're making some changes to it kind of before I go and push it really heavy. We're going to launch probably in like a week, maybe 10 days, a software company called Build that's going to make it really easy for you to build like custom chatbots, content generators, document summarizers. It's actually going to do some AI email automation as well.
Good luck. No, I'm fucking.
So we're getting ready to launch that as well. And then, I mean, just like so much cool stuff has happened.
Wow.
It's like HubSpot is like, sponsoring my YouTube channel. So like there's been like...
How'd you get
awesome.
that? How'd you land that?
They emailed me.
No way.
Yeah.
Was it a shitty email?
No, it was actually
I
pretty...
feel like most of the big corps have just like terrible.
It was actually
emails.
pretty good. So I'm doing 3 test videos for them right now that I've really enjoyed working with them so far. And it's like I'd really love for them to be like a long-term partner of mine. So yeah, now I'm just like trying to pump out SaaS companies through like a venture studio model.
So cool, man.
And it's been...
I love the venture studio model.
So it's like I said, I mean, selling Closify ended up being the best decision of my life. It was the hardest decision, but yeah, it was just like super divine timing.
Yeah.
So I have a question because I assume so someone watches your video, they're like, oh, I'm not going to do an agency. I'm not going to do drop shipping. I'm going to start a SaaS.
Yeah.
My question for you is, you invented Trackify out of a need that the market had.
Yeah.
What's your advice to a beginner who doesn't know what gap in the marketplace exists? Like, do you think you should start a SaaS once you have a service business and you identify a gap in the market, or how do you think that should go?
I think it's a great question. What I tell people is like, if you've never made $1 online before, like, it probably shouldn't be your first business.
Yeah.
You should go start an agency. You should go do online sales. You should go freelance.
Just talk to people.
Yeah, just talk to people. And it's not necessarily because like you don't have an idea. Like you can get ideas. Like I tell people, go on acquire.com and just go get inspiration, or go on Crunchbase or, something like it's getting an idea is not hard because you just find something that's already working. But what is hard is these people that haven't made money online before yet, they need cash flow.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like software, your first customer might pay you $20 a month. Right. And so like it takes a lot of $20 a month to get to a livable income.
Yeah.
So it's like, you should just go land 3 agency clients at $2,000 a month as fast as you can. So that way, like as Daniel would say, like, dude, you got to buy groceries, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like you got to pay the bills. So like if you purely are just looking for cash flow, like it's probably not the business model for you. But if you've already if you already have cash flow coming in and, you want to actually start to build equity in something, it's like, it's my business partner Luca told me, it's like you get rich at liquidation events. Like you get rich when you sell a company for a fat multiple.
Yeah.
And the companies that sell for the highest multiples are software companies. And so, that's when you should get into software, is when you're like, okay, like I have cash flow, like now it's time for me to build, equity in an asset.
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of how we started with our SaaS, which is ListKit.
Yeah.
Is we were running our lead generation agency, and I was spending hours in spreadsheets. And I'm like, this sucks. Like just organizing spreadsheets, writing personalized lines, verifying emails. And I'm like, this sucks. Like there's got to be a better way to do this. And that's where we came up with the idea for ListKit. And so I think what Christian is saying and what you're saying is like, go get a feel for how to do online business and what problems people are actually wanting to solve, and then go and solve those with a SaaS. And a SaaS might not make you, a high ticket retainer right away, but it's going to get you to that liquidation event, which is going to build generational wealth. And so I want to go back to your big liquidation event, which was Closify, right?
Yep.
And so there's not too many people in the money Twitter space that have exited their company, right? There's a lot of guys on money Twitter that are successful, but I feel like that's a very small group. And so can you just walk us through what that process looked like? And especially because I know Luke, who acquired it, right?
Yeah.
He's like a friend of yours.
Yeah.
So like, what was like the negotiation phase like with negotiating with a friend?
So it was super interesting.
This weekend, does that sweeten the deal?
It was super interesting because so I first listed Closify for sale in August of 2022 on acquire.com. And it's a great platform. I got a ton of offers through it, like actually a ton. Like it's very impressive what they've built. But
and, sorry, real quick, like when you go and list Closify on acquire.com, like what information are you putting on there?
You basically, they help you make a deck, and then you basically like connect financials. So like, you connect like QuickBooks or like any type of financial reports you have. Yeah. So it's like a really great process on both sides. But they were all like private equity guys and or firms and family offices. And so we were getting these LOIs coming through. And, luckily my business partner, Luca, was like, make sure you hire our lawyer to like look everything over. And of course, because like I was 21, I was getting like big offers put in front of me. And dude, I was like not gonna like the first one. I was like, dude, let me sign the dotted line.
Yeah, let's go.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, and I was like so like I'd obviously like I was so naive to like how the whole acquisition process worked. And so like I was literally like, oh, sign dotted line, get wire, like call it a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And all of a sudden he was like, you can't sign any of these. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes like, oh, like the terms aren't favorable. They're trying to screw you here. Or like, the due diligence period is way too long. Like, 'cause, I mean, they're like, a lot of these deals were going to take like over 6 months to close, which is like normal. But like, that's so unideal. Because like, I was like, I want to like get out of this. Like I want to sell. Like, and then I want to be on to the next thing. Build bigger and better, yada, yada, yada.
And I imagine most of them wanted you to stay in the business for a certain period of time.
Exactly. They wanted me to stay in it, but while I was also being fully bought out, right? And so that was my other thing. Is I wanted to keep minority equity because I believe in Closify. So I wanted to do that, but they all wanted to fully buy me out. And so a lot of the offers, it's going to take long. They wanted me to stay around and still be fully bought out. And so I was like, no, I'm not like, and not to mention, like, I wasn't sure all of them were like actually going to be able to like grow it. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm sure you have good business experience, but it's like a lot of them are old. Like, they're 50s, 60s.
Do you think they saw a listing from a 21-year-old kid? You're like, we could take advantage of this kid.
I think so.
Really?
I think some of them definitely did think that, like, to an extent, they could just put a big check in front of my face and, like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's why, like, again, thankfully I did hire a lawyer because he was like, listen, you can't sign this.
And this Luca guy was like your partner or mentor? Or?
Yeah, both. I mean,
okay.
Business partner, but, mentor. And so eventually I was like, this would be way easier to sell to someone that, like, I know and trust.
Yep.
And it was like, okay, like one of our bottlenecks at scale was like recruiting enough sales talent, right? So it was like, okay, it would make sense to go to someone with one of the biggest sales education companies out there. And so I literally just texted him, right? And I was like, is this of interest? And again, of course it was of interest, right? And so we honestly just sat down. We both were like aligned on the same goal. And instead of it taking 6 months, it took a month to close. I got to keep my minority. It was all cash. Like, it was the perfect deal for me. But yeah, I learned so much throughout that whole process about like how these, like what these private equity guys look for, what these family offices look for, and even like from their perspective, like what are they looking for when they're acquiring companies? How are they structuring their deals? Was like very interesting to learn, because obviously that's what I want to do eventually.
Yeah.
And so it was a very interesting thing.
You want to be on that side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so it was very interesting to see how they operate.
I guess, what would you say through that experience was your top 2 or 3 takeaways of like how you would have built Closify differently to have capitalized even more?
Yeah, so I definitely would have, instead of being $5,000 a year on business owners, I probably, and this is kind of like what Luke's doing now, is I probably would have dropped the price to try to close more businesses on a smaller, like monthly
a placement
recurring
fee or something.
Yeah, because something that like $5,000 a year was great because we didn't need a lot of clients to make a lot of money, but they want to see you have a lot of users on your platform. Because I was telling Miles, think of it as like, say you have 200 customers and 20 churn. It's like, okay, you just lost 10% of your business. But if you have 2,000 customers and 20 churn, like you don't really care.
Yeah.
And so that was one thing, is I would have done lower pricing in some sort to get, so that way we could close a lot more users, because we had a ton of leads, like tons and tons of leads, but only a very small percentage of those were a good fit to like pay $5,000 a year. So I definitely would have done like some sort of lower recurring price to get way more customers onto the platform.
That's great advice. So just make it lower ticket. And I think in the SaaS world, especially because you came from like the agency world first, your mind just goes straight to like high ticket, high ticket, high ticket. But it sounds like in an acquisition phase for SaaS, it's more about users, not really like, like the overall value of what the users are paying you. Because it's a threat, right? If, like you said, 20 out of 200 churn, there goes 10%.
And that's like, and that's what I learned is like they care a ton about churn. They care about how much people are actually using your platform. Like how often are they hiring?
That's what J.K. Molina was telling us too. We interviewed him about Tweet Hunter. He said the same thing. He said churn and then people actually using the product.
How sticky is it? And that goes hand in hand with churn.
That's what Grandpa always says.
Yeah.
Our grandpa is a super successful entrepreneur. And he says, build software and make it as sticky as possible.
So literally it. And it's like, that's the thing is like, I always tell people is like, customer acquisition is honestly like the easiest part. And that's funny because like when you're a beginner, it's like getting that first client, getting those first 20 customers. Like
well, I made it.
Yeah, you think like you think that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Like
that's just the start.
We understand like it's really the easy part. You send the cold emails, you put out the content, you do the sales team on LinkedIn, the cold calling team. Getting users is the easy part. Building an amazing product that they're gonna use, not only use, but go and tell all their friends about is the hard part. You know, it's Hormozy said something that really resonated with me, that he's like, imagine if you only had one customer and for the rest of time, the only marketing you can do has to be through that one customer.
I love that.
Like, how would you treat them? Like, how would you build your product? And it's like, of course, like you would have the most amazing product ever because you need that one person to go tell everyone about it. And so I thought that was a really good point.
100%.
Love that.
I got to ask, bro, do you actually build the software?
No. I am, again, funny enough, I am like the least technical person ever.
That's hilarious.
Like will sometimes like not even.
It took me a week to fucking set up my email list with the DMARC and shit. I was like, why isn't this fucking
like
working?
I'm not.
Let me write.
Like again, there's a no-code building platform called Softer that one is easy enough to where like, yes, I can figure it out and I could build something basic on it. But like Bubble, like no chance I can build on it. Like, yes, if I wanted to dedicate 6 months to learn it, I'm sure I could, but no interest in it. And so I don't build any of my own stuff. I have an in-house dev team.
Talk to the audience a little bit about client acquisition, because I remember when you were in that scale phase with Closify and just seeing ridiculous screenshots of like 15-minute meeting, like stacked.
Oh, you guys were
for
ripping
weeks
cold
on end.
email.
We literally scaled too fast. And that's what I said, like, customer acquisition really is the easy part. We got so good at building outbound sales teams. Like we had like an assassin of a team on LinkedIn because we found this, like, it was almost like a glitch.
You were using a little one-sentence cold email action, maybe?
There was that we were. So like, I mean, our cold email was the simplest thing ever. It was literally like, hey, first name, and then it was like AI line, but it was literally like, I see you're based in city, can't wait to watch X sports team, like that thing. And then it was literally quick question, are you hiring commission-only sales reps?
Yep.
That's it.
Yes or no?
yes or no. And if it was yes, it was like, cool, we've got this platform, yada, yada, yada. But on LinkedIn, there was this code that you could paste into it that would like bypass how many connections you can add at once.
Yeah.
And so we created this standard operating procedure, and we framed it as like an affiliate thing rather than like building a sales team. So we signed up a bunch of people and we're like, listen, if you want to make money, like we have a proven way to make money. Signed up like 200 people that were all adding like 1,000 connections a week. They all optimized their profile the exact same as mine. And then the thing that I had them do was I had them repost all of my threads as their own LinkedIn posts.
Oh, man.
And so it just became this like massive flywheel of like people seeing like my content about Closify everywhere. And it just like we literally had to like stop the affiliates because they were literally booking
Pumping so much volume.
too many calls. So like that worked super well.
Did female affiliates convert higher than males?
It's a great question. I don't know, probably. But then we paid an SEO agency for a year. So like still to this day, if you search higher commission only sales reps, we're like first page, first spot.
Whoa. So
So it's like we get, I want to say, we were getting over 3,000 clicks a month, intent based from SEO. Cold calling team. We did a little bit of ads, but again, we stopped ads because that was when we were scaling too quickly. But yeah, that's what, like, to my point, was like getting clients really isn't the difficult part. It's, you guys have probably seen something similar. It's like, since there still was a fulfillment, as in we had to recruit enough sales reps, fulfillment and building an amazing product operationally was the difficult part.
Yeah.
Like that was my biggest takeaway probably from Closify. That was like, I need to hire an operator at my companies going forward once they get to a certain threshold, because I'm not the guy to do operations. Like that is not my thing. I can drive traffic, I can build sales teams, but like I'm not the operations guy. So that's probably my biggest takeaways is that like, listen, like once, it's like, it's kind of like build your team, right?
Yeah.
Like once you have the money, don't be cheap with it. Go hire an operator. I know they're not cheap, but do it because they're going to like save you so many headaches. So that was probably my biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I remember the Closify cold email system. Like you guys were just ripping the most simple emails, and they're just crushing. And that also comes down to like a really good offer.
Yeah.
Right. But it sounds like your biggest takeaway was I'm really good at sales. I'm really good at marketing. I'm really good at driving traffic and volume.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people feel that same way. Like they're more in that marketing mindset. And so how do you go out and find an operator or someone to build a no-code SaaS?
In terms of the operator, I'm still learning that, right? That's where I'm trying to figure out, like, where do I go?
We could talk, bro. I can help you with that.
We should. I was like, where do I go and hire a good operator? And it's like, do I hire a fractional COO? Like, do I hire kind of like an operations agency? Do I make a full-time hire and put them on, a big base salary plus a few basis points? So that's something that I'm actively like looking to figure out right now. Because like I said, I've got all these companies that I'm getting ready to make a huge push on, but I'm waiting because I'm like, all right, I'm not going to like break everything again. You know what I mean? In terms of where to hire no-code developers, we got an in-house dev team, but we're only for like bigger projects. And then, but besides that, Rolade.io. You can go hire some no-code devs there, easy enough.
Yeah, I know. I one of the biggest videos that stuck out for me as well was like talking about equity. And I think in the SaaS world, it's really easy to just say, take equity, just figure out the development side for me. What's your take on that?
I've seen so many people get screwed over so badly. And it's so sad to see because it's like when you're building no code, it can still get up to 10, 20, 30K, but most often not. If you just want to build an MVP on something so basic, 3, 4, 5 grand, like 10, you can almost always get a really great MVP for 10 grand. Almost always.
People overpay.
People, not just overpaying, but they're like, people are being cheap, so they don't want to front a couple grand. So they're like, all right, fine, have 20%. I've seen people, go, let's just go 50-50 with a technical co-founder. And then a couple months goes by, and it's like they built the product. Now they fix one bug a month, and they own, a quarter of your company, 50% of your company. If you ever want to raise money, you're screwed. Oh, why does your developer have 50% of your company? He built the MVP. Like, you're not going to be able to ever raise money. Like, you literally gave up. Like, imagine that becomes worth $1 million, and you're like, wow, I just lost $500,000 in equity value because I wouldn't pay $5,000 up front because I was too scared to front the money. Like, the most, like, your dev should, like, ever have, like, and this is, like, if they're going to be, like, a full-time, like, CTO, like, crazy position, like, they're going to work their ass off, like, 10%, and make it a vested deal still, where it's, like, okay, like, 2.5% vests every single year. So, you know, they've got to stay, you know, for 4 years to get to 10%. Like, stuff like that. It's, like, always, this goes for any equity partnership. It's, like, protect yourself with a vested equity deal. Like, don't just give, like, too many people give up equity in their company too early. And I've made the same mistake. It's like, protect yourself. Make it a vested equity deal. Like, make them hit benchmarks to earn the equity in your company.
So what do you think about ListKit? Because we spent a year trying to build a SaaS, it failed. And then we gave equity to a co-founder who has exited softwares before. He built a dev team. He's our CTO. Do you think we, made that mistake too early? Do you think it was the right move to bring in a guy who's already sold multiple software companies?
I mean, I think if he's sold multiple, and if he's going to be a really good CTO, and like, because again, product's important in software, of course. Like you said, it's got to be sticky.
Yeah.
If he's really good, and he's the key piece that you guys really needed, I don't think it's a bad play. But I guess we'll find out, right?
Yeah, time will tell. I think to piggyback and like reiterate,
shout out to Oliver, bro. He's the GOAT.
Yeah, he's the man. He's the man. One of the things that really doesn't make sense is if you're not a technical person, right? And that's why you're going out to hire a technical co-founder or developer. You're not even going to get the hire right first time. So not only are you giving equity to somebody else who doesn't really deserve the equity, there's a very high probability, and we spent over 6 figures making this mistake.
Yeah, we spent $150K trying to build this kit so far.
Yeah. That person's not even going to be the right hire to begin with. So not only did you give up equity, you gave equity to the wrong person. That's not going to work out. So I feel like that's why we're way more comfortable with the direction the company's heading in, just because not only is Oliver technical, he also has access to a development team.
Yeah.
So like if one of the developers isn't what we need to get it across the finish line or to wherever we want to go, he just fires them and finds another one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my first developer ever on Bubble wasn't the best either.
Yeah.
Like, I had no way of knowing because, again, I'm not technical.
Yeah. On the sales call, they tell you what they can do. You're like, oh, perfect. That's exactly what I need.
You're like, oh, you can build this? Great.
Yeah, you don't understand the difference between a front-end developer, a back-end developer. You don't even really know what's needed.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, what you want to do, what service you want to make, but you don't know about all the data querying and all that stuff.
And I mean, you made a great point because you said you guys have, spent like 150 grand on it. And it's like, that's what people think of when they think of software. And that's why people think they can't get into it because they're like, I don't have that much money.
Yeah.
But it's like, you can literally build an MVP for like 10 grand.
There's an education gap. What I was going to say is I wish your freaking Instagram page was up a year ago. It would have saved us like 130K because the funniest part is out of the 150K, I think maybe 30 is actually what's built into this product we're going to launch.
Right.
So we just burned 100K, 120K to launch nothing, and it wasn't until the last 30K because it was just mistake, and then, okay, we got it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's an education gap.
The one caveat I will put on that is we were smart in the fact that we rolled it out as a productized service first. So that 150K wasn't coming out of our pockets. It was funded with the company's revenue.
Yeah,
and that's what you did with Closify, essentially.
Yeah. All bootstrapped.
I'm interested to know, like, outside of your own upcoming SaaS projects like Roll8 and some of these other ones, like, what do you think? What are some of the best SaaS ideas that have come across the table for you?
Man, I just think in general, this is very general, but I love B2B software. Like, something that I personally want to do is, like, if someone's watching this wants to steal it, like, go for it. And I just know it'll rip. So it's like, there's Expandy.io for LinkedIn automation, right? That your sales teams use it to book calls on LinkedIn. There's Instantly for cold email sales teams use, and there's Mailshake, Lemlist, whatever.
Smart Lead.
The next one that I think the next space that I think needs to be disrupted is power dialers.
Oh.
So our cold calling team was using AirCall. Not only were we paying like $500 a month for it for, I think, I don't know, maybe it might have been 5 seats. I think it's maybe $100 a seat. It was like the numbers were burning so fast, like they overcharge. So like kind of similar how like Instantly like slashed the prices to be like $97 for unlimited inboxes.
Huge disruption.
I think there's room.
It's so funny because we've been complaining about ours the entire week, and we also
Power dialer.
Alloyware is what we use.
See, we use that too.
Terrible.
Garbage.
Yeah.
Right? We use Alloyware and Air Call. We didn't like either of them.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know how hard it will be to build because obviously when it comes to like getting phone numbers, like that might just be like a Twilio API though. Yeah. I'm not sure because again I'm not the tech guy, but I think there's room for disruption there, and I love softwares like that where it's like if you can charge $50 a month per seat
and just get like 1,000 seats.
I love that. It's like you just target people with big sales teams. You can land some big contracts. Oh, I love businesses like that. So I think there's room for disruption there. Like if someone was like, you have to start a new software like tomorrow, like all your current projects are scrapped, you have to start something. I'm probably starting a power dialer.
That's really cool. And so what's the process, right? I think this is a cool opportunity to walk someone through how you'd actually go about doing that. At the very basis, there's a problem, and you come to the table with a solution, which is in the form of a SaaS. Like, how do you go about building that power dialer tomorrow?
Yep. So first thing that I would do is I would look up like Air Call, like G2 reviews, and I would scroll and I would look at what people dislike about Air Call.
Dude, that's so good. That's so good.
So I would go look at and I would write down the most recurring complaints, whether it's pricing, whether it's the numbers burning quickly, whether it's a feature request people are dying for. And then what I would do is I would take those recurring problems and I would try to solve like the biggest pain point in my MVP. So if people are just like, listen, I want it to be cheaper. Like I don't want like, it's ridiculous. I would take a place similar to Instantly and try to disrupt by slashing the price. Or maybe there's one feature that they're dying for. I would build that into the MVP. But so then what I would do
that's what Liskit does.
Is
I was gonna say we gotta do that for Apollo. Just go on G2 and read the Apollo negative reviews.
We already know what they are.
It's funny, like that's what we did. That's kind of what we did with Liskit.
Yeah.
Is on Apollo, if anyone out here has used Apollo, you can only select like 25 records at a time. And so you're just spending so much time to get leads out of a software. And then once you get them out of the software, they're not even verified. So then you got to go to another software just to verify them. And it's like, I just spent 3 hours building a list of 100 contacts.
Yep.
What am I doing here?
Exactly. So then once I had the idea of what I wanted to build, I would approach different developers, different development agencies, and I would get a Figma mockup, right? And so that's like normally a part of the design process. They'll bring to you like a clickable prototype of the Figma, the design, and if you sign off on it, you're like, I like how this looks.
What do you typically pay for like that sort of mockup?
You can get one for like $1,000 or $2,000. We kind of just like include it in like our total price. So like how we work at our development agency is if someone pays us, it'll be like 10 to 20 grand up front. It's like we onboard them, and the first thing we do is we have our kickoff call and then just send it over to our design team. We get a design mock-up made. They sign off on it, and then we start building the back end.
Yep.
So that's very important. And so if if you're like kind of technical, if you're good with design, that type of stuff, you can try to wireframe it in Figma yourself. I don't bother trying to do that myself. You know what I mean? It's like
you're just the idea guy.
Yeah, it's like I'm like not like I don't know. I don't know how to like exactly tell people exactly how I want it to look like. Like I would rather
you have the idea. It's just hard to.
Like I need someone to like visualize it for me almost. Like I can tell them like how I want the flow to be. Like, listen, I want them to log in and then have these onboarding questions. But in terms of like the designs and like how it should all look, I'd rather just have someone else do it. But if you have like a good eye for design and you're a little technical, you can definitely try to make your own, mock-ups in Figma.
All right, so we gated all that part. We're going to charge $5.99 to access it. That was fire, bro.
And then it just goes straight into development from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so sick. And then how about like product launches? How do you go about launching a new SaaS for the first time? Do you do, what is that one website?
Product Hunt?
No, well, Product Hunt's one. What's the one where it's like lifetime deals? You can find lifetime deals?
AppSumo, yeah.
AppSumo. So like, how do you go about making the most of a first-time product launch?
I haven't done AppSumo. I've done Product Hunt. Trackify was the number 2 product, I think, on the launch. I like to build an early bird waitlist. So like while it's in development, it's like instead of like sitting on your hands, like you might as well build a waitlist of people that want to buy it, right? So I'll create an early bird waitlist page, and I let it build it on card, $19 a year or something.
Yeah.
Super simple. I call out my ideal client profile. I say the benefit of what I'm building, and then I say the benefit of signing up to the wait list. Like it'll normally be like a discount on launch, plus I'll throw in some free bonuses that are maybe PDFs, info, whatever. And then, I'll join Facebook groups of the ideal client profile I'm targeting, and I'll make like a post. So like I did this as like a little case studies. I built an AI LinkedIn post generator that was like fine-tuned for like B2B. And I went into like agency owner groups, and I was like, here's how to book 10 calls a month with LinkedIn content marketing, leveraging AI. And I was like, I did like a long post, and in the middle of it, I was like, use this tool.
Yeah, so you like subtly drop your own tool.
Subtly dropped my own tool in the middle, and I was like, sign up for the wait list to like use this when it comes out. And it's like, I was getting signups, right? And it's like, and it wasn't really a wait list page, but it was like my 4th day, I got a paying customer, right? So when people are like, it was like, I built it in a day, and I got a paying customer on the 4th day. And it was like, it was $10 a month. Like, it wasn't anything impressive, but I just did it to like make a point that, again, it's like getting customers is not the hard part. What would have been the hard part is actually making that tool much better, much more useful, much more valuable, because it wasn't that useful or valuable, but I was just making a point. But yeah, and then, just a bunch of outbound, get people on your wait list, and then throw them into a nurture sequence while they're waiting for the product to be developed. So like, give them the founder story. Like tell them how you came up with this idea, like get that like emotional buy-in. Answer their frequently asked questions, things like that, tease them a little bit. Like, once you have like that Figma mock-up, like drop that in the email, like say, hey, this is what it's going to look like, like tease them a little bit. And then, you launch, you send out that launch email, you launch on all your socials, and you get paying customers day one.
Sweet. This is like a master class.
I was going to say that was awesome.
I feel like I'm stealing.
Need a wait list.
Yeah.
So much sauce. I'm interested to hear more about the hybrid between your dev agency model and a venture studio.
So it's basically like the same thing. So with our development agency, it's like, it's 10, 20K up front right now. And then we have our clients pick some sort of support retainer after. Because obviously we launched, there's like a 7 to 10 day grace period to fix bugs that come up because it's kind of inevitable. And then you're going to get customers. They're going to want new features. They're going to want changes. And you have to iterate on those, or else, again, your churn gets super high. And so then they'll settle on a retainer with us. It's normally like between 2 and 3K a month for like 6 months after, where we're just going to be cranking out new features each month for them. And then after that 6 months passes, what our plan is if we really like the business, and of course this is only going to happen for maybe 1 in 20 businesses because it has to be so synergistic. But if we really like the business, we really believe in it, they love working with us, they believe in us, they believe we can help them take it to the next level. Basically what we'll do is we'll look for an equity partnership. And it could look like us completely dropping our dev fees to like basically zero. It could be a vested equity deal. We're like, hey, we won't get equity until we do Y. Or it could just be us writing them a check for equity in the company. So that's kind of like the venture studio model. And then it's like once they come on board, it's like we've got the content team in place for them. Like we've got my audience to push it. Like I'm going to start acquiring different media assets in different niches. Like I think that's the smartest, that's the smartest thing that you could do is be, you're buying distribution, right? That's probably been my other biggest learning curve is like to get Closify to its biggest month, it took like 16 or 18 months, 15,000 cold emails a month, sales team on LinkedIn, cold calling team, SEO, content marketing, referrals. To surpass our biggest Closify month, it took me 45 days with my Instagram account.
That's nuts.
45 days.
45 days.
And what are you doing on that account?
Dev agency.
But I'm saying like in 45 days on Instagram to generate that traffic, it's just posting reels?
Yeah. 2 reels a day, some story posts. I'll go live every once in a while. So it took 45 days just from my Instagram. So like wild. And so I was like, wow. And I have 25,000 people on my email list. So it's like, I send an email and 10,000 people see it.
Yeah.
Like,
what do you drop? You just Instagram the link in bio is your newsletter?
Like, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
And I put up a story post, same thing, 20,000 people see it. So it's like, imagine you have again, it's like, at first you think getting customers is the hard part. It's like, no, now I put up a story post and 20,000 people see it. I sent out an email, 10,000 people see it. You know what I mean? So I'm like, wow, distribution really is everything. Like it's true, like first time entrepreneurs focus on product, second time focus on distribution. So if you can acquire, that's why HubSpot's so brilliant.
Yeah.
They're acquiring all these newsletters, they're acquiring podcasts, they're just buying distribution. and they're owning their audiences. Like that's the smartest thing you can do. So it's like I want to look into acquiring distribution in different niches, so that way as these people come to us to build, different software companies in different niches, I already have the distribution to bring to the table for them.
That's huge. That's huge, and then they could go all in on product, and you have the best of both worlds.
Exactly. That's the goal. Is like every company that comes into the venture studio, like let us worry about driving the traffic. You just make the best product possible. Like that's kind of like my vision, because what I've realized is I'm just really good at driving eyeballs to offers.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome, dude. I guess for you, I feel like everyone kind of has their number. Like, what's the number in your head for, like, the next SaaS exit? Like, do you have a goal of, like, I want to exit a SaaS for this amount?
Nothing now will be worth it. I shouldn't say won't be worth it, but, like, nothing's attractive under 8 figures, basically, in my opinion. So now, like, exiting Closify was really nice because it gave me, like, you don't need to worry about money for a very long time, right? So it's like you're just completely free to build.
Yeah.
And so now instead of like, I'm just doing it for like the love of the game now. Like not that I can retire now.
Yeah.
But now I'm building these companies like because I want to. Like there's nothing I have to do. It's all because like I want to do it. And it's like allowed me to play business at the next level of the game, if that makes sense. Like it's allowed me, selling Closify is like what allows me to spend money on content. Like I'm spending $15,000 a month on content right now. So like it's allowed me to do stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I think 8 figures is pretty achievable. And especially, I talked to this guy that, funny enough, he DM'd me on Instagram. He's like, "Yo, I sold my software company for $110 million. I'd love to talk to you." And I was like, "I'd love to talk to you." Yeah, I was like, "I'd love to talk to you." Exactly. And he's like, "It's really smart what you're doing." He's like, "My buddy did the same thing with the venture studio model. Now he did it a little differently, where I think they took equity in like literally every project they built, which I don't really like that model. But anyways, he was like, he pumped out 200 companies in 2 years through the venture studio, and then he sold majority of his share in the venture studio for $50 million in 2 years."
Jesus.
2 years.
And with your distribution, that's definitely within reach.
Yeah.
I'm curious, when you started to really push 2 reels a day on Instagram, because it's been 90 days or something? You mentioned you're at
95 days.
Yeah, you're at 100,000 followers already. Did you start with a clean account, or did you just do it on your personal account?
I started with a clean account. It was actually funny because, so before I started working with Cam and Presley, I had this like guy making like lifestyle clips for me, like some videos of me on boats. Like I was just like, he was just like asking me for the longest time to make short form content for me. And I didn't care about growing a brand at this point. So I was like, sure. And he was like charging me like per views. Like I literally didn't care.
Per view?
Per views. It was like I don't know. It was like $5 per 1,000 views. Like it was a CPM. And I was like, sure. Here's a bunch of content. Like go crazy. And he had some reels that got like 100,000 views. But again, when it's lifestyle, you get no followers. And so then it was funny. Like it's actually funny because I blew up completely on accident. I really didn't care about building a personal brand. Presley asked me to do a podcast. I was like, sure. And then after the podcast, he's like, while you're here, do you want a few free short form clips? I was like, why not?
Yeah.
So they gave me 3 free short form clips. And sure enough, the first one I post runs up to over 1 million views. It's at 1.6 million views right now. And that video alone probably added 20,000 followers.
Wow. What was that video specifically?
That was like
Iman Ghadzi went all in on SaaS.
Yeah, it was Iman Ghadzi shut down his agency. And it was funny because at first it initially, like the same day, it ran up to like 15,000 views, 20,000 views maybe, and it added like 1,000 followers. And I was like, wow, you guys are amazing at this. And then like another week goes by, and then it goes from like 20,000 to 200,000 and then 300,000. Like it took a week before like it took like another week before it ran up even more. And I learned that's how reels are. Like I have a reel going viral right now. It's actually the same. It's the same reel. I actually reshot it. So it's literally like exact same one. So that's like a little growth tip for you guys too.
Every month, just reshoot it.
It's like,
New hook, right?
It's like why wouldn't you re-say what works? So it's like 230,000 views right now. It's running up right now. Yeah. So he was like, hey, I'll make you 3 free clips. And then of course after it blew up, I'm like, of course I'm gonna work with you guys. Like
yeah.
And so then I did, and yeah, now it's we're running with it.
It's taking off. I actually have something happening like that on my Instagram right now. It's so I'm not like into social media much, but we're trying to run up an Instagram now that we have like an info product.
Yeah.
And I posted one about reselling sneakers like 2 months ago. and it's like adding 100 likes, 1,000 views like a day still. It's like super random. But the reason I mention it is because you also kind of came up in the sneaker game.
Yeah.
So kind of to pivot a little bit off of software and SaaS, we're all sneakerheads. I'm not sure if you're still a sneakerhead, but I know that's kind of how you came up in entrepreneurship. So kind of walk us through what that looked like.
It was so funny because I've worked one summer job ever in my life, and it was managing tennis courts at a country club. And it's the easiest job in the world. Like, you really didn't have to do anything. Like, you had to sweep the courts, like, if a guest needed something.
Managing the tennis courts.
It was easiest job in the world. Like, it was a joke. And me and like 2 of my buddies did it, and I think it was like $7 some an hour. And if it rained, like, your shift got canceled. So like it rained. I just remember that whole summer, like the whole summer I worked, I made $900 pre-tax.
Yeah.
And granted, I didn't have much use for money at the time, but I was like,
This sucks.
I was like, that's bad. Like, I was like, that's really bad. Like, there's got to be a better way. And one of my buddies was flipping shoes. He was like, flip shoes. And I was like, all right. And then I think I don't even remember what my first shoe was, but I remember eventually I flipped like probably like just like one pair of Yeezys or something for like $200 profit probably. And then I got like addicted. And then I started to learn about like this concept of like backdooring. And it became this like mythical thing of like, how do you backdoor stores? It was like, it's like, it seemed like the biggest secret in the world. And someone was like, you literally just become friends with managers. And I was like, that's interesting. And so me and my buddies, we would go to this like one store and we would just like get the manager like snacks when he was on breaks. And we would just like talk, like we would just like literally just like kick it in the store with him. Just like talk with him for like 30 minutes. And he was like a cool dude. Like it was like genuine. Like we weren't like it was, we genuinely liked the guy. Like he was a cool dude. And we would talk
Why
about,
are you guys always in the store?
yeah, what are you guys doing here? And
Bringing you stats.
we would talk about like similar aspirations. Like I remember he was trying to do like, you know, he was after financial freedom himself. Like being a manager of a sneaker store wasn't his end all be all.
Yeah.
And one day we
That kid was Phil Knight.
and one day we kind of just like got the strength to like ask him like, do you think you could hold a few pairs in the back for us and we'll slip you some cash on top of each pair you hold? And he was like, yeah. And it started off where he held us like, I don't know, like, you know, 2-3 pairs. But eventually it got to the point where on Yeezy and Jordan drops, we were walking out with like 20 pairs.
Wow.
And it was like discreet. Like we would get people to come with us.
Yeah.
So that way like everyone was like carrying out like 1 or 2 pairs. But we were like cleaning up on these shoe drops. And it was so funny because there was like this other like, there were these 2 brothers that were like notorious for it. That like, we had like the one location that like they didn't own the manager. Cause like every other store, like they like own the manager actually. Like it was like known. Like 50% of the stock that store gets is going to these 2 brothers. And it was so funny because like me and like 3 of my high school buddies like just had this one store on lock. But like every other store like they had. And so I mean, and we didn't make crazy money either, but you know, we would make a couple $1,000 a month. And yeah, I mean that was the start. I was like, wow, why would I work a summer job again when I can go do this?
That was it. That's so cool, man. I was the guy behind the computer the entire time, just botting.
I never had luck with botting. I don't know why. I never had
We
luck.
just didn't have a store in our area that ever got the shoes because we grew up in such a small town.
Our Foot Locker in Columbus, actually, I learned, gets the second most stock of any Foot Locker in the country.
What?
Really?
Wow.
Columbus, Ohio?
Yeah. But that's not the store that I would get many pairs. I would win the raffles there a lot because I think if you like, one, I would also like, I would pay a bunch of my friends to like enter the raffles for me. And then I also had like 3 of those like Foot Locker Platinum accounts or whatever it was. But yeah, so I mean, it was crazy and it was fun. I mean, I remember like in my room, I would have just like stacks of like 20, 30 shoes at a time.
Yeah.
And the other thing that was huge is I found a local buyer that like he would buy all my stuff cash.
Yeah.
So
easy cash out. You don't have to hold on to inventory for
like I would sell someone Goat because Goat people paid way more.
Yeah.
They paid higher than StockX. But then I had a local buyer too that, you know, I would basically sell it to him for $5, $10, like under like StockX value. And then I don't know if he would go flip them on Goat or if he had another buyer, but he would just always buy my stuff cash. Like he would never not buy my stuff. So it's just like good like assurance that I would always have a buyer.
Yep. You could get rid of stock quick. I guess what you learn from that entire experience that you apply to business today? Because I feel like there's so many lessons in there, like supply and demand and all that type of stuff.
Making friends with the manager and also that local buyer kind of taught me early on relationships. And it was sales in a way that I wasn't even conscious of.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was selling them on why they should hold sneakers for me. And I wasn't really conscious of it. And it also just kind of showed me that it's like, you don't get anything if you don't ask. Right? Like if I didn't ever ask him to hold shoes for me, he never would have. But eventually I was like so scared to ask him for the longest time. It's like, it's the worst thing he's going to say. No, can't buy shoes from here anymore now. Like, okay.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you don't ask, you don't get anything. So,
Love that. Squeaky wheel gets oil. That's another grandpa classic there. So was that what instilled just like the hustle mindset for you? Because that's high school. You go to college, D1 athlete, which is like a full-time job within itself, plus school, and you're still looking to place salespeople, do sales yourself. I guess where does that come from? Where you're just like, okay, nothing's really enough. I need to be building right now.
I think part of it definitely is just like innate. Like I was going the finance route, and I think I just knew myself. Like I'm really not good with authority. Like when someone tells me what to do, it's just like, it's like when you're a kid. If someone tells you like not to do something, it's like you want to do it. And so I just never did well with people telling me what to do. I never aspired to live a lifestyle like finance bros are living. Like I saw people that were a couple years older than me that would go and work in consulting, that would go work in investment banking, and I would see how they're living. And once I got to my senior year of high school, I realized that's really not the lifestyle that I want to be living. Yeah. I have no desire to go live in New York City and go do investment banking there. I don't want to go to Chicago. Like, I don't want to work 80 hours a week.
Wearing that vest.
Yeah, like
sleeveless
the
vest.
Patagonia. Like, and so I just realized like, I really don't want to do any of these things. And I just started, just went down the online business rabbit hole, started an e-com, no success, found sales, had some success, and it snowballed from there. But yeah, I think it's just innate. It's kind of funny because I remember saying like since I was like a kid, I was like I remember like literally saying I'm either gonna like be super rich and like be a billionaire, or I'm gonna like live in a box. There's like there's like no in between, because I'm either gonna do so well for myself, or I'm just not gonna be able to work for anyone else, and I'm gonna do horribly.
Just burn the boats.
Yeah, so like there was never any like in between for me. Like in between, I really think I would have been really unhappy if I would have worked a finance job. And that's not even a diss to like people that do work finance jobs, because like my dad did it, my brother's doing it. Like it's a great way to do well for yourself. It just takes a little bit longer. But it's just like I'm not disciplined enough to do something like that. Like I'm only disciplined if it's something that I love to do
and have ownership
of. But otherwise, there's no like I probably would have gotten fired so fast. Like I just wouldn't have been able to do it. Like I just wouldn't have been able to like mentally get myself to show up for something that I care so little about.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess what's it like going back home for you now? Because you come from a smaller town, right? And the mindset there is just
it's Columbus. I mean, it's a decent sized town, but it's fun. I love going back home still, and I didn't cut off any of my hometown friends. Yeah. Like I'm still boys with all of them. It's fun.
I think going home and visiting your hometown buddies is the best thing ever.
Oh yeah,
because you guys were boys like when you were in high school and had no idea what you were doing with.
And it's like now when I go out at the college bars with them, it's so fun. Like it's $1 drinks, and it's like people there are like if they spend $20, they feel like a baller. And like me and Josh would go to this one college bar at Ohio State, and it's $1 drinks, and we'll spend $400. Like
just buying shit for people.
We will literally buy trays of, they're called bombs. It's like vodka and Red Bull. We will buy trays of 25 at a time. We're just passing them out. Yeah. Like it's the most fun.
Everyone there's like, who are these
legends? It's the most fun thing in the world.
I think it's so fun because when you're obviously in Miami, you're like a fucking minnow in a massive ocean. You go back up home and you're just like, I don't even want to say like cocky, but
yeah, I mean it's just a completely different world. Yeah. It's like
people are content with buying $1 bombs.
I know, and this is, again, it's not a diss, but I know people that like go to Ohio State that's like they have to DoorDash during the week to be able to afford their drinks when they go out on the weekend.
Yeah. Also, good perspective too.
It's great perspective. Yeah. Like that, could have been like a lot of us. Like they're literally dashing during the week, so that way they can afford.
A DoorDasher.
So that way they can afford to spend $50, $100 on drinks over the weekend. Like. It's a great perspective.
Yeah. It's a nice duality because you go back home, you're like, oh, I'm doing pretty well. And then you go back to Miami and you're like, shit.
But it's also like
so many more levels above me.
Your boys from home, like nothing about your career or shit matters. You're just like kicking it with your friends. And that's
it. It's like We don't care
Yeah,
what
it
each
doesn't
other do
fucking matter.
professionally. Like we're just boys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to not talk about work for a little bit.
Oh, I love it.
I'm
Because
that
like
way.
I'd imagine that in
Yeah.
Miami, it's pretty much all business all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a lot.
Same for us. Yeah.
Especially it's like if I'm out, and it's funny. I remember like when I would ever go out with Daniel in Miami,
Bro.
like, we'll be at like a pregame or like we'll be like literally at a club, and he's just like stewing in the corner, and I'm like, "What's up?" And he's like, "I'm infuriated that I'm not making more money." This is like,
Dude, he's only got one gear, man.
he doesn't turn off, and
No.
I love it about him, and it's why he does so well. But it's like when I'm out, like the last thing I want to do is talk about business.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm the same way. I feel like this is a great segue. What is I already kind of know the answer, but your take on like work-life balance and putting in the hours and then on the weekends just enjoying your day and
I think
turning off?
for me there has to be a balance. Like I can't just work
Yeah,
like
I'm the same.
24/7. It's just not really me. Like I said, I mean I like to enjoy life. Like I'm 22. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I want to enjoy it. And I don't really like party that much anymore because I kind of burnt out from that phase.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, I play a lot of pickleball. Like I go out to dinner with my friends a lot. I'll go to the beach during the day. I'll go hang out by my pool. I'll go
Yeah.
run. Like, I think work-life balance is pretty important because I think you do burn out if you just work. Now, something that I will occasionally do is like, okay, work really hard until you burn out and then go have fun for a week or two. You know what I mean? Go, work only an hour, 2 hours a day and just let yourself reset for a little bit. I think that's fine too. But I personally now, I have my day structured in a pretty good way. I'll basically wake up and I'll do like a 2-hour work block and then I'll like eat lunch, go to the gym, and I only take meetings for like 2 hours throughout the day. And then after those meetings are over, I'll do any other little work I have to do, and then I'm free to do whatever I want. So I'm actually not working a ton right now, probably 4 or 5 hours a day. And that's like a really good like medium for me. Because if I work like 8, 9, 10 hours a day, I kind of start to notice that like the efficiency of my work falls off a cliff. So for me, it's just like, and I'll work the same amount then on the weekends too. And I much so prefer that to just work 4 hours a day, 7 days a week, rather than working like 8, 9 hours a day, 5 days a week and taking the weekends off. That's what works for me at least.
Yeah, you just got to
Love that.
find what works for you.
Yeah.
You were telling us off camera before we started that if you were paid maybe $500,000 to $1 million a year just to play pickleball professionally, that would be an intriguing offer.
Yeah, if it was something where it was like I was guaranteed $500,000 a year and all I had to do then was train pickleball every day, travel for pickleball, I'd probably do it.
That's awesome, bro.
If they told me $500,000 a year, but you got to ditch, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have to ditch the business stuff because I could manage both. But even if they said, you got to ditch the business stuff, whatever, and we'll pay you $500,000 a year guaranteed for like 3 years, I would for sure do it.
Why pickleball over tennis now?
I'm not good enough to play tennis professionally.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's so different. Like, if I played professional tennis, I'd be like thousands in the world, and then you literally make no money. Like, it's honestly messed up because you could be 200 in the world in tennis, which is insane, and you make no money.
Really? You don't get like sponsors and
Not really at that level. Like, you'll probably break even.
Yeah.
Sport's just not big enough, right?
I don't even know this. I don't know. I don't know that much about it, and I think they're making like a tennis union of some sort. I think to like try to help it because
Yeah, pickleball's coming up quick.
you shouldn't be 200 in the world in tennis and not make money because that's insane.
yeah, if you're 200 in the world in NBA, you're making $5 million a year.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And they are dedicating their lives to it. And that's why some of those tennis players are coming to pickleball. Because they're like, I'm giving my life to tennis to make no money. I could switch over to pickleball, become top 20 in like 3 months and make money. So, it's
It's
crazy.
a growing sport.
Yeah.
Should we do lightning round? All right,
get
so
it.
lightning round, series of quick questions. They're meant to be quick, but some people stumble on them.
You know what's crazy? Like,
What?
we did a podcast interview. I'm like just now remembering
Yeah,
it. Me and
agency
you
builders.
interviewed Alex. And
Yeah.
I think you're still in college. I think you're in like your dorm room.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely was.
That's
Yeah.
crazy to think about. We got to go back and find that. I think it's out somewhere.
Should be on Apple Podcast. But first question: dinner with 3 people, dead or alive. Who would they be?
Roger Federer, tennis player.
Based.
Fucking love Federer.
Yeah, have to.
Legend.
Elon Musk, I feel like you have to say, just such an interesting dude. Probably Mark Cuban. I really like Mark Cuban.
That'd be dope.
Good trio.
What do you like about Cuban?
I've always thought he's like the most impressive guy on Shark Tank, and I kind of like how he thinks. And he's always a proponent of sales. So I don't know. I've just always liked him, and he seems like a fun guy. Like
Seems like the most relatable billionaire.
Yeah,
out
he's like
there.
relatable. And it's funny. He like talks about like his old stories, like him buying like that jet pass for like $250,000, and I feel like he'd have some like cool stories to tell. So I don't know. He seems like a cool dude, like someone that I would want to like kick it with, like not just like talk to about business.
Yeah.
And I feel like aspirationally, he's lived out all of our dreams.
Right.
Owning an NBA
Get
team.
rich quick, buy a sports team.
Right. Yeah.
and just be like
Do
the cool
Shark
owner
Tank.
that's always around the players and hanging out.
Do you think something like that is in the cards for you, where you do like a Shark Tank model for your venture studio?
Dude, I've actually been talking about it. I would love to host like of like the people that we know, right? Because we have a lot of people that we know that like they would write some like decent sized angel checks into companies that they believe in, right?
Yep.
I was like, how cool would that be to like host our own like money Twitter like Shark Tank?
That'd be fire, bro.
Like do like an event in Miami or something like of that. Like that would be sweet.
Dude,
so
do it.
I definitely think it is in the cards. Maybe Q4, maybe next year.
Yeah, I know. I saw you tweeting about hosting an event sometime in Miami.
Yeah. I want to talk to you guys about how you guys structure your events because I definitely want to do one.
I mean, there you go. That's the idea right there.
Yeah.
I think that would rip.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of guys, like you said, on Money Twitter that are cash flowing really well, and they just don't know what to do with that free capital.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
so I think you have an opportunity to source that to what you're doing, and just be the connector.
Absolutely.
We'll get a client ascension chair on that.
Yeah. Daniel's just one of the guys. He's just absolutely roasting.
Daniel, somebody be explaining a software. Daniel would be like, no. What do you functionally do? Like, who benefits from this? Like, he first starts crying.
He would make a person cry, I think.
That's a horrible offer.
Yeah. Next.
Is there any risk reversal here?
Next lightning round question is, I kind of change this one up all the time, but if like everyone on Money Twitter just got like airdropped a 30-second, 60-second clip from you just speaking into them based on all your experience and success, like what would you say?
As like advice, it's kind of what I've been preaching a lot is lengthen your time horizon because every single offer that's being sold online is like beating into people's skulls. Like get a client in 4 weeks, add 10,000 MRR in like 90 days. Like they're all very short-term gratification goals. Whereas like I always say like, where's the offer of like imagine there was an offer like you will be a millionaire in 5 years. Like no one would probably take it
But
because
it's realistic.
it's real. Like it's realistic and it's actually like if you become a millionaire in 5 years, that's amazing. You know what I mean? But it's like these people have like a messed up like preconceived belief that like they can do it way faster, and of course it's possible, but it's like if you're starting from zero, you're not going to become a millionaire in a year. I doubt even in 2 years. Like I really doubt it. And so I would say lengthen your time horizon, and if you can build just like brick by brick, like put one foot in front of the other for on a year's timeline instead of weeks or months, like you'll lap everyone.
Yeah. Just length. I love that, dude. It's just think longer term. We did like a little bit of a group case study with like, I think it was 8 7-figure agency owners. And every single one of them, like we asked, like, when do you start? How long did it take? It was like 3 years was the average to hit 100K months.
Right.
3 years. And so if you sold someone on that, like, hey, sign up for my program, you'll hit 100K a month in 3 years.
Like imagine you guys like put out an offer for client ascension and you were like, you said like, hey, do this in 5 years. How many people are going to take that?
Very few.
Right. And that's why like very few like actually get those. Like how long have you been doing it? Right. Like a couple years.
Yeah.
Like it makes sense.
It's been 3 years since we started the agency.
Yeah.
And we're just now hitting that scale.
Yeah.
So.
Love that. Well, usually I ask people if Bezos were to buy up all your companies, what would you do next? But I think you would just play pickleball. So I don't need to ask that one. So I'm going to switch it up, steal Christian's question. Let's say you won the Masters. You're the returning champ next year. You get your Masters dinner. Appetizer, entree, dessert. What does that look like?
I don't know. I'm not a big appetizer guy. Normally when I get appetizers, it's like wings of some sort or like, I mean, wings are always good. Main course, steak. It's always going to be steak. Dessert, some sort of chocolate cake.
Hell
Love
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Love that.
What are some of the best like restaurants in Miami that you've found?
Komodo. Komodo's really good.
Moto.
Is that owned by Grutman too?
Yeah.
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 That dude is. I want to meet him.
I think someone told me Komodo is actually the highest revenue restaurant in the country.
Wow.
What?
I'm not sure if that's true, but I think someone told me that, and I would believe it. There's this Thai place on the top floor of the city center that we go to all the time. We get like beer towers there. Sometimes we'll like do our pre-games there. We won't even. I shouldn't even call it a pre-game because I think we don't even go out after anymore.
You're just done.
Like we just get a beer tower and go home. But we love that place because it's fun. Because you get like you get like wings and a beer tower, and go home then, or go out. But normally go home now.
Love that. How about travel? We didn't really talk much about travel. Do you have any plans to like go out the country and just look around?
Yeah, I've never been out of the country. Besides like,
Wow.
Really?
I've been to the Bahamas, but that was when I was really young. That's still like U.S. territory, I believe. I think I've been to Canada, but yeah, I don't really count that either. And so I've never been out of the country, and I want to go to Europe.
Come to our London event, bro.
I really want to go to Europe. So maybe in July I'm going to Europe if we can actually organize it. I don't know what it is with my friends about like not. It's so hard to get people to actually buy their plane tickets. Like I've been trying to tell people for like months, like just buy your ticket, like solidify it. No one ever does. But I'm like dying to go to Spain, Greece, Italy, Croatia.
I've been to Italy twice. It's fucking
Like I feel
unbelievable.
like uncultured because like I haven't like seen this. And like when I was at St. Louis, like my teammates were like from Spain and they've traveled all
Oh, that's
over.
cool.
And they're like, you've seen nothing of the world. Like you have to go travel. I'm like, I know, but like the first time I would have been able to like financially was when we know what hit and like you couldn't.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I couldn't for a year and a half, 2 years, whatever. And now that I finally can, I'm like really itching to go to Europe.
Yeah, don't put that off.
Yeah.
Just do it. I mean,
Yeah.
you're young, you're making money, you can work
Perfect
from wherever.
opportunity is you should come to Lisbon, Portugal with us in November for Web Summit.
Yeah.
It's like one of the biggest tech conferences ever.
Huh.
And it's just a bunch of SaaS, like the guy from, I mean, there were so many guys there last year from huge SaaS companies that you can easily network with.
We're hitting London at the end of this month. Dublin in October. Dublin.
I'm going to use
Top
my
of the
points
morning.
to get the flight back, so it's like a free trip for me.
See
Yeah,
the
I've got a
boys.
ton of Amex points right now. Right now,
Yeah.
I only use them to force my hometown friends to come visit me. Literally, I get so bored, and I'll be like, I'll ask one of my hometown friends. I'll be like, "What are you doing this weekend?" I'll be like, "Nothing." I'm like, "Cool, you're coming to Miami now." I just book it for
That's
them.
some wholesome shit right
love
there.
that.
And they're
I love
like,
that.
"Wait,
He's not
what?"
flying out BBLs. He's like, get my boys over here.
I was on Xbox with one of my friends once, and one of my buddies like burst into my apartment. He's like, "Yo, we're doing a boat day tomorrow." And I was like, "Tyler, did you hear that?" He's like, "What?" And I was like, "Boat day tomorrow. You're coming." He's like, "What?" I was like, "Check your email." He's like, "You did not." Sure enough, like 12 hours later, he was in my apartment.
That's awesome,
Fire.
bro.
That's so sick.
I love that.
That's my
Yeah.
favorite thing to do.
All right, last question. What would you say to one piece of advice to your 18-year-old self?
Kind of like what I already said, like zoom out, dude. Like again, when I was 18, I wanted to make a ton of money in the next 3 months. You were like, in 3 months, I want to go buy that Rolex. I want to go buy a car, like all those things. But it's like, zoom out, dude. Like you can have it in 3 years, but like you can't have it in 3 months. Like it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's like just delay that gratification as long as you can. And it's another thing is like don't get caught up in like the materialism, because like the first time that I like could have ever bought a nice watch would have been like in 2020, because I was making decent money as a sales rep and I had no expenses because I was in college. But it was like, okay, but then I can't go buy that course. I can't go, invest money back into the business. And so, I delayed it for another 3 years before I ever bought myself a nice watch. Like,
That's it. What you got?
Yeah, it's so
Di-
clean, bro.
state just.
Blue face.
And so, like, I waited for me to be able to buy it 100 times before I actually bought it. And I think a lot of people mess that up because they buy it way too soon. I've put all the money back into the business for like the last 2.5 years, basically. So finally, when I exited Closify, I was like, okay, now I can reward myself. But
Yeah.
zoom out and delay the gratification, because when you're 18, like, you just want to make money as fast as possible. And it's like, you gotta be realistic with yourself. Like, you should be working as hard as you can to get there as fast as possible, but you gotta be realistic and you gotta zoom out.
Yep. Love that, bro. Well, appreciate you making the trip out here.
Yeah, of course.
Spending all this time with us, dropping an absolute masterclass on launching a SaaS and just shooting the shit. This was a great episode. And so, for for people listening, they're definitely at this point wanting to learn more, get more involved with what you're up to. So where can they follow you on social media?
My Instagram is at nocode.alex. And I had to think about that for a second. My YouTube, I honestly don't even know what my ad is, but if you search Alex Heiden, you'll find me.
Nice. YouTube content's good, bro.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, keep crushing it. And yeah, that's it.
Thanks,
Appreciate
bro.
it, bro.
Appreciate it,
Thanks,
brother.
boys. This is sick.
Yeah.
Sick setup.